The incident, Dr. Sarah Martinez pressed her palm against the cold metal wall of Kepler Station's medical bay, watching the small alien child sleep peacefully in the recovery pod. The young Altarian's blue skin had finally returned to its natural, luminescent glow after weeks of malnourishment. Sarah had found little Cricks in the refugee camps, barely alive and abandoned by smugglers who had promised his family safe passage to the outer colonies. "Another successful recovery," said Dr. Yilan, the station's cetacean medical officer, his whale-like form floating in the specialized water chamber beside Sarah's workstation. "You have saved 43 refugee children this cycle alone, Doctor. Martinez, your dedication is remarkable." Sarah smiled tiredly, brushing a strand of dark hair from her face. As Earth's first xenobiologist assigned to the neutral Kepler station, she had expected to study alien life forms and contribute to scientific research. Instead, she had become something she never anticipated, a guardian for the galaxy's most vulnerable beings. "It's not enough," Sarah replied, reviewing the medical charts on her tablet. "For every child we save, 10 more disappear into the black market. Someone is systematically targeting refugee populations, and the Galactic Council pretends not to notice." The past 6 months had revealed a disturbing pattern. Refugee ships would arrive at designated safe zones, but their manifests never matched the actual number of passengers. Children were vanishing, and when Sarah tried to investigate, she met walls of bureaucracy and corporate interference. Her breakthrough came accidentally. While treating a Zephyrian child for radiation poisoning, Sarah discovered something impossible in the blood work. The child's DNA showed signs of artificial modification, genetic markers that could only be created in advanced laboratories. This wasn't natural evolution or adaptation to new environments. Someone was experimenting on alien children. Sarah's hands trembled as she pulled up the genetic analysis on her secure terminal. The modifications were sophisticated, targeting specific neural pathways and cellular regeneration systems. These children were being turned into something else, but for what purpose? "Dr. Martinez," a smooth voice interrupted her thoughts. She turned to see Director Vexatal, the Zephyrian representative of the Cosmic Development Corporation, entering her laboratory. His reptilian features were arranged in what humans might interpret as a smile, but Sarah had learned to read the predatory gleam in his golden eyes. "Director Vextal," Sarah replied coolly, quickly closing the genetic analysis files. "What brings you to the medical bay?" "Routine inspection," he said, his forked tongue tasting the air. "The corporation has received reports of unauthorized research being conducted in this facility. We want to ensure all activities comply with galactic regulations." Sarah felt her heart racing, but kept her expression neutral. "All my research is properly documented and approved by the Galactic Health Authority. I study alien physiology to improve medical treatments, nothing more." Vextal's eyes narrowed as he moved closer to her workstation. "Of course, Dr. Martinez. However, we've noticed unusual patterns in your medical supply requests. Genetic sequencing equipment, neural mapping devices, cellular regeneration accelerators. These seem excessive for routine medical care." "I treat a wide variety of species," Sarah replied firmly. "Each requires specialized equipment and approaches. The refugee children arrive in terrible condition, often requiring advanced intervention to save their lives." "Ah, yes, the refugee children." Vextal's voice carried a hint of something Sarah couldn't identify. "Such a noble cause. Tell me, have you noticed anything unusual about some of these children? Any unexpected recoveries or enhanced capabilities following treatment?" Sarah's blood ran cold. He knew. Somehow, the corporation was aware of her discoveries. She thought quickly, knowing that her next words could determine not just her fate but the fate of every child she was trying to protect. "Children are remarkably resilient," she said carefully. "With proper care and nutrition, they often recover, in ways that surprise adult observers. It's one of the beautiful constants across species." Vextal studied her for a long moment, then activated a small device that generated a privacy field around them. Sarah recognized the technology. It would prevent their conversation from being recorded or overheard. Dr. Martinez, let me speak plainly. The Cosmic Development Corporation has invested significant resources in various research projects across the galaxy. Some of these projects require specialized test subjects. The refugee populations provide an unfortunate but necessary resource for advancing galactic medicine and technology. Sarah felt sick. You're experimenting on children, kidnapping them from refugee camps and turning them into test subjects. We prefer the term advancing galactic science, Vextal replied smoothly. These children have no families, no legal protections, no future. We give their lives meaning by contributing to research that will benefit countless worlds. They're not test subjects, Sarah said, her voice rising with anger. They're children, sentient beings with rights and futures and dreams. What you're doing is monstrous. Vextal's smile vanished. Dr. Martinez, I had hoped you would be reasonable. The corporation values your expertise and would be willing to offer you a very lucrative position overseeing some of our more sensitive research projects. However, if you continue to interfere with our operations, you'll what? Sarah challenged, stepping closer despite her fear. Kill me? Make me disappear like the children? Nothing so dramatic, Vextal replied, reactivating his privacy device. Merely ensure that your concerns are no longer a problem. After he left, Sarah immediately began copying all her research files to a secure quantum drive. If something happened to her, someone needed to know the truth. She thought of Captain Elena Rodriguez, her friend from Earth's Interstellar Defense Force who was currently stationed on the Outer Rim. Elena would know what to do with the evidence. Sarah worked through the night, documenting everything she had discovered. The genetic modifications, the missing children, the corporation's involvement, and the Galactic Council's willful ignorance. She uploaded encrypted copies to multiple secure servers and sent coded messages to trusted contacts throughout the galaxy. As dawn broke over Kepler Station's artificial horizon, Sarah made her final rounds of the medical bay. Little Crix was awake, his large purple eyes following her movements with the innocent trust that broke her heart. Dr. Sarah, he said in broken standard, the galactic common language. When can I go home? Sarah knelt beside his recovery pod, fighting back tears. Soon, little one. Very soon. But she knew the truth. There was no home for Crix to return to. His family had been killed in the war that created the refugee crisis. Like so many others, he was alone in a galaxy that saw him as either a burden or a resource to be exploited. Sarah activated her personal log recorder. Dr. Sarah Martinez, personal entry, star date 2387.156. If anyone finds this recording, know that I have discovered evidence of systematic crimes against refugee populations throughout the galaxy. The Cosmic Development Corporation, with the knowledge and possible cooperation of Galactic Council members, has been kidnapping alien children and subjecting them to illegal genetic experiments. She paused, looking at the sleeping children in the medical bay. I'm transmitting all evidence to Earth Command and trusted contacts. If something happens to me, please know that these children deserve justice. They deserve protection. They deserve a future free from exploitation. That evening, Sarah was working late in her laboratory when the environmental systems began malfunctioning. The atmospheric composition in her section of the station started changing subtly, introducing trace amounts of a compound that was harmless to most species, but lethal to human physiology. Sarah realized what was happening too late. Her vision blurred as she reached for the emergency communicator, but her coordination was already failing. She managed to activate an emergency beacon before collapsing, her last conscious thought being of the children who would have no one to protect them. The official report stated that Dr. Sarah Martinez died due to an equipment malfunction in the environmental systems, a tragic accident, the kind that occasionally occurred on stations dealing with multiple atmospheric requirements for different species. The Galactic Council sent formal condolences to Earth, expressing their sadness at losing such a dedicated scientist. Earth's official response was measured and diplomatic. Ambassador Chen Wei delivered a statement thanking the Galactic community for their sympathy and requesting a thorough investigation into the safety protocols on multi-species stations. Standard procedure, appropriate grief, nothing unusual. But beneath the diplomatic surface, something else was stirring. In secure communication channels, encrypted messages began flowing between Earth's colonies, military outposts, and diplomatic stations. The messages were brief, coded, and carried a simple designation: Protocol Shepherd. Captain Elena Rodriguez received the news of Sarah's death while conducting routine patrols near the Vega system. The official notification was followed by a heavily encrypted personal message containing files that made her blood boil. Her friend hadn't died in an accident. She had been murdered for trying to protect innocent children. Elena's ship, the UESV Determination, changed course immediately. Not toward Earth, but toward a seemingly empty region of space where other ships were quietly converging. Earth's response to Sarah's death wouldn't be announced in Galactic Council chambers or broadcast on interstellar news networks. It would be silent, systematic, and devastating. In the depths of Earth's intelligence networks, analysts began connecting dots that had been carefully scattered across the galaxy. Financial records, shipping manifests, personnel transfers, and communication intercepts started forming a picture that went far beyond one corporation's crimes. The conspiracy involved dozens of alien governments, criminal organizations, and corrupt officials throughout galactic society. Sarah Martinez had died trying to save alien children from human cruelty. Her death would teach the galaxy what happened when humans united around protecting the innocent. They were about to learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their warfare capabilities. It was their absolute refusal to accept injustice no matter the cost. The reckoning 6 months after Dr. Sarah Martinez's death, the galaxy continued its normal routines. Trade routes operated smoothly, diplomatic relations remained stable, and the various alien governments maintained their comfortable power structures. The Cosmic Development Corporation had expanded its operations, opening new research facilities on 3 different worlds. Nobody noticed the subtle changes happening in the shadows. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood in the cramped briefing room of the UESV Determination, studying the holographic display showing shipping routes throughout the Andromeda sector. Around her, representatives from 12 different Earth colonies and military outposts listened as she outlined what had become known as the Silent Network. Sarah's death wasn't random, Elena explained, her voice steady despite the anger burning in her eyes. She discovered something that threatened a galaxy-wide operation. Our investigation has revealed that the Cosmic Development Corporation is just one part of a massive conspiracy involving alien governments, criminal syndicates, and corrupt officials. The hologram shifted to show financial records, communication, intercepts, and personnel files. They've been kidnapping children from refugee populations for over 50 years. The experiments aren't just medical research. They're creating enhanced soldiers, mental slaves, and biological weapons. Lieutenant Commander Marcus Thompson, Earth's intelligence officer stationed on Proxima Station, leaned forward. "How many children are we talking about, Captain?" Elena's jaw tightened. "Conservative estimates suggest over 2 million children have vanished from refugee camps during the past 5 decades. Most are presumed dead after the experiments. The survivors are kept in facilities throughout the galaxy, their minds broken and their bodies modified for various purposes." The room fell silent as the enormity of the crime sank in. These weren't just statistics or intelligence reports. Each number represented a child torn from their family, tortured in the name of science, and discarded when they were no longer useful. "What's our response?" asked Dr. Amanda Foster, the civilian scientist who had volunteered to help coordinate the investigation from Earth's lunar research facility. Elena activated another display showing the Silent Network's structure. Unlike traditional military or intelligence operations, this network operated on principles that would have seemed impossible to most galactic societies. Instead of a rigid hierarchy, it functioned as a web of interconnected cells, each operating independently but sharing information and resources freely. "We're not going to war," Elena explained. We're going to do something they won't expect and can't counter. We're going to tell the truth. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. While the alien governments and corporations expected humans to respond with typical patterns of warfare, negotiation, or submission, Earth chose a different path. They would gather evidence, document every crime, identify every perpetrator, and then present it all to the galaxy in a way that couldn't be ignored or suppressed. Dr. Kenji Nakamura, working from Earth's Quantum Communications Center, had developed a breakthrough in information distribution technology. Traditional galactic networks are controlled by the same entities we're investigating, he explained during a secure briefing. But quantum entanglement communication operates outside their infrastructure. We can transmit information directly to any receiver in the galaxy without using their systems. The silent network spread across hundreds of worlds, with human agents taking positions as traders, researchers, diplomats, and workers. They weren't spies in the traditional sense. They were witnesses, documenting everything they saw and carefully building relationships with the galaxy's overlooked populations. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Zara Okafor, a human cultural anthropologist studying trade patterns, on the Outer Rim worlds had befriended a group of former slaves who had escaped from corporation facilities. These survivors, representing dozens of different species, had formed an underground network helping other victims escape. They've been trying to expose the truth for decades, Zara reported during a clandestine meeting in the asteroid belt. But nobody listens to escaped slaves or refugee children. Their testimonies are dismissed as unreliable or motivated by revenge. Elena realized that Earth's real strength lay not in their military capabilities or technological innovations, but in something the galaxy had forgotten how to do properly: listening to victims and believing their stories. The silent network began, connecting with survivor groups throughout the galaxy, escaped test subjects, former guards who had developed consciences, researchers who had been horrified by what they were ordered to do, and family members searching for missing children. Each connection added more evidence to the growing case against the conspiracy. The most significant breakthrough came when Crix, the young Altarian child Sarah had saved, managed to escape from a corporation facility with the help of other survivors. Now 12 years old and bearing the scars of 3 years of experimentation, he sought out the only human he trusted, Captain Rodriguez. Dr. Sarah saved me, Crix told Elena during their secret meeting on a remote mining station. His voice was different now, carrying harmonics that hadn't been there before. The experiments had altered his vocal cords along with other modifications. She died protecting children like me. I want to help stop them. Crix's testimony, combined with his inside knowledge of corporation facilities, provided the final pieces needed to complete the investigation. He knew the locations of hidden research stations, the names of key personnel, and most importantly, he could identify the alien government officials who regularly visited the facilities. Elena studied the complete evidence package that had taken 2 years to assemble, financial records showing payments from alien governments to the corporation, communication intercepts revealing coordination between different criminal organizations, testimonies from hundreds of survivors across multiple species, documented locations of secret facilities, personnel files of everyone involved from the highest executives to the guards who carried out orders. "It's time," she announced during the final network briefing. "Tomorrow at the Galactic Assembly's emergency session, Ambassador Chen will present our findings." The Galactic Assembly had been called to address increasing tensions between the Outer Rim colonies and the established core worlds. Trade disputes, territorial disagreements, and resource allocation problems had reached a critical point. The Assembly expected typical diplomatic theater followed by negotiated compromises that would maintain the status quo. Ambassador Chen Wei stood at the central podium of the Assembly chamber, looking out at representatives from over 300 different worlds and species. His calm demeanor gave no hint of what was about to unfold. "Honored representatives," he began in the formal diplomatic style expected at such gatherings, "Earth has requested this opportunity to address urgent matters affecting galactic society. We have discovered evidence of systematic crimes that demand immediate attention." The chamber buzzed with mild interest. New species often brought complaints about unfair treatment or requests for assistance. This seemed like standard procedure. Chen activated his presentation device and the chamber's holographic displays came alive with data. But instead of typical diplomatic charts or trade statistics, they showed something that sent shockwaves through the assembled representatives. Financial records proving that 17 different alien governments had been funding the Cosmic Development Corporation's illegal experiments. Communication intercepts revealing coordination between species that were supposedly enemies. Video testimonies from survivors describing years of torture and experimentation. For over 50 years, Chen continued, his voice carrying across the stunned chamber, a conspiracy involving governments, corporations, and criminal organizations has been systematically kidnapping children from refugee populations. These children have been subjected to illegal genetic experiments, mental conditioning, and biological modification. The evidence continued flowing across the displays. Facility locations, personnel files, financial transactions, and most damning of all, recorded conversations between high-ranking officials discussing the operations as routine business matters. Director Vextal, sitting in the corporate representative section, had gone pale. Around the chamber, other implicated officials were frantically activating their communication devices, trying to contact their superiors or legal representatives. Earth demands immediate action, Chen declared. We call for the establishment of an independent tribunal to investigate these crimes, the immediate rescue of surviving victims, and the prosecution of all individuals involved in this conspiracy. The chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives from implicated governments demanded proof of the evidence's authenticity. Corporate delegates claimed the charges were fabricated. Some species representatives, shocked by the revelations, called for immediate emergency powers to address the crisis. But the most significant response came from an unexpected source. Counselor Thren of the Valoric Confederacy, one of the galaxy's oldest and most respected civilizations, rose from his seat. The evidence presented by Earth is overwhelming and properly authenticated, Thren announced, his ancient voice carrying the authority of centuries. The Valoric Confederacy will support the establishment of an independent tribunal and the immediate suspension of all implicated officials pending investigation. One by one, other species representatives began voicing their support. The pattern wasn't random. Elena realized that many of these supporting voices belonged to species that the Silent Network had quietly contacted over the past 2 years. Species whose own children had been victims, whose refugee populations had been targeted, whose concerns had been dismissed by the Galactic establishment. The Altarian delegate stood and activated his species' ceremonial truth-speaking protocols. The evidence confirms what our people have suspected for generations. Our children have been disappearing, and we have been told it was acceptable losses due to refugee conditions. We demand justice. Similar statements came from dozens of other species. The galaxy's marginalized populations, many of whom had never found their voices in the assembly before, were united in demanding accountability. Within hours, the political landscape of the galaxy had transformed completely. The conspiracy that had operated in shadows for decades was exposed, its leaders identified, and its victims finally heard. But the most profound change wasn't political, it was philosophical. For the first time in galactic history, a species had responded to injustice not with violence or submission, but with truth and solidarity. Earth had shown that the galaxy's greatest strength lay not in military power or economic dominance, but in the simple act of protecting the innocent and speaking for those who couldn't speak for themselves. As the assembly session continued late into the night, establishing emergency protocols and rescue operations, Elena received a message from Earth Command. It was brief, but it carried the weight of an entire planet's determination. Protocol Shepard successful. Sarah would be proud. Begin Phase 2. Reconstruction. The galaxy would never be the same. They had killed a human who died protecting alien children. In response, humanity had united not just their own species, but dozens of others around the principle that every child, regardless of species or origin, deserved protection and justice. was the beginning of a new era, one where the galaxy's civilizations would be measured not by their military might or economic power, but by how they treated their most vulnerable members. And at the center of it all was the memory of Dr. Sarah Martinez, whose death had sparked the greatest transformation in galactic history. The aliens had expected war. Instead, they got something far more dangerous: humans who refused to accept injustice, no matter the cost.